All right. Hello, and welcome to the Average Joe. Tonight, what have we got tonight? Ooh, it's an amalgamation, a conglomerate over the last, I don't know, week or so. The word on these scientists has just been getting, it's like a snowball down the hill, you know? It really has been. And so I just did. I had to do a deep dive. I had to just see what the heck was going on. So it's an interesting. So I mean, I found another list. I had been operating off of the list of the 10 or 11 scientists, and then I found on Reddit another list. Now this other list, boy, I think it had 22 people on it, and it actually had people from a Chinese academy. So let's see, between 2022 and 2026, a statistically anomalous series of deaths and disappearances among elite scientific personnel has emerged as a primary concern for geopolitical risk analysts and national security oversight committees. This phenomenon, categorized, and that's what I call it, the kinetic brain drain, involves the systematic removal of intellectual capital from specific high sensitive fields of research, most notably magnet hydrodynamics. And we're going to just go ahead and call that MHD for short. So, magneto hydrodynamics, or MHD. All right, so we got quantum computing, advanced metallurgy, and nuclear fission, or fusion, not fission, fusion. Fission we can do, fusion is harder. The pattern is not confined to a single nation. It manifests as a global hollowing out of the specialized workforce required to transition theoretical exotic physics into operational military and energy infrastructures. The investigative record suggests that these incidents are not merely a collection of isolated personal tragedies or standard industrial accidents. Instead, the timing, the specific expertise of the individuals involved, and the institutional connections between them indicate a coordinated effort either by state actors or unacknowledged transnational entities to control the golden thread of technological evolution. This thread links the ability to manipulate plasma at a quantum level to the development of propulsion systems that bypass current chemical limitations and energy systems that could decentralize global power structures. Huntsville, Alabama, historically the seat of American rocketry and home to the Redstone Arsenal, serves as the primary geographic locus for the initial phase of this attrition cycle. The death of Amy Catherine Eskridge in June of 2022 remains one of the most contentious cases in the Huntsville scientific community. Eskridge was the chairwoman and president of the Institute for Exotic Science, an organization she co-founded to challenge conventional wisdom regarding nanoparticles, or the nanoparticles of the atom and the fundamental physics of the universe. Eskridge's profile was that of the quintessential interdisciplinarian, holding degrees in chemistry and biology from the University of Alabama in Huntsville, or UAH. She mastered electrical engineering, physics, and nanotechnology. Her work at the Institute for Exotic Science focused on what peers described as a beautiful vision for the cosmos, which translated technically into the study of propulsion systems that could potentially operate outside the constraints of the Standard Model. Before her death, Eskridge reportedly expressed fears of being silenced or harassed to derail her work, even suggesting that any future incident, like accident or suicide, should be treated with extreme suspicion. Her death at age 34 removed a bridge between independent exotic research and the established aerospace industry in Huntsville. The loss of personnel in Huntsville continued into 2026 with the Moffett family tragedy. Andrew Moffett, a research engineer at UAH Rotorcraft Systems Engineering and Simulation Center, RSESC, died in a private plane crash April 2026. Just this month. The crash was also claimed the life of his father, James Tony Moffett, a retired Army aviator, a digital engineer expert who supported the RSE. This incident effectively decapitated a critical lineage of specialized knowledge in rotorcraft simulation and digital engineering within the Huntsville defense ecosystem. The Los Angeles Materials Nexus. We got the Mandalloy and a superalloy bottleneck. So the kinetic brain drain transitions into a more aggressive phase in 2024 and 2025, focusing on the materials science bottleneck in Los Angeles aerospace corridor. The central figure in this cluster is Monica Jacinto Riza, an American metallurgist and director of materials processing at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or JPL. His disappearance in June 2025 has become a focal point in federal investigations due to her role in inventing Mandalloy, a nickel-based superalloy critical for high performance in rocket engines. Mandalloy is a strategic asset. Its high temperature and pressure resistance allowed the United States to develop oxygen-rich boosters, engines that could finally match or exceed the performance of the Russian RD-180 engines. Reza's disappearance while hiking the Mount Waterman Trail in the Angeles National Forest followed a pattern of vanishings in plain sight. Her hiking companion reported that she waved, smiled, one moment, and only to have vanished entirely by the time he turned back 30 feet later. Despite massive search operations involving helicopters and specialized radar, no trace of Reza has been found. Reza's disappearance is linked to a broader cluster of fatalities involving JPL and Caltech personnel. Frank Maywald, a 61-year-old principal researcher at JPL, died on July 4th, 2024. Maywald was a specialist in building instruments for detecting chemical signatures and water on icy moons like Europa, and at the time of his death, he was overseeing the Surface Biology and Geology SPG FSWIR instrument development. His work was essential for the next generation of planetary defense and exploration sensors. Similarly, Michael David Hicks, a physicist at JPL, died in July 2023. And we've got 2026, Carl Grillmeyer, a Caltech astrophysicist and NASA Exceptional Scientific Achievement Medal winner, was shot to death on his front porch. And we have the tragic case of Nuno Loureiro and the quantum fusion disruption. One of the most significant losses to the global energy future occurred in December of 2025 with the murder of Nuno Loureiro, the director of the MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center, PSFC. Loureiro was an expert in magnetohydrodynamics, or MHD, and the physics of plasma behavior in fusion vacuum chambers. His death occurred just as he was pioneering the use of quantum computing algorithms to simulate plasma turbulence, a breakthrough that promised to accelerate the development of clean, near-limitless fusion power. The complexity of the MHD equations Loureiro sought to solve is governed by the coupling of the fluid dynamics and Maxwell's equation. In a simplified latex form, the evolution of the magnetic field in its simulations can be expressed as an equation. And I guess I will have to put in post right here. Boom. This equation. Loureiro's work aimed to redefine the understanding of the current sheet, the formation of the plasmoid chains. The plasmoid chains, which are critical for maintaining magnetic reconnections and plasma stability. By applying quantum information science to these problems, he was moving fusion research from a 50-year horizon to something potentially achievable by 2027 or 2023 or 2030. The official narrative attributed Loureau's death to a shooting by Claudio Manuel Nieves Valente, a former classmate. However, the investigative analysis points out that the removal of the world's leading expert on quantum plasma simulation at the precise moment fusion is racing ahead, as noted by private firms like Commonwealth Fusion Systems, represents a strategic decapitation of the public academic fusion sector. A critical link in the kinetic brain drain is the Air Force Research Laboratory and its associated special access programs. Retired Major General William Neil McCasland, a former commander at the Air Force Research Laboratory, or AFRL, and director of the group that funded Reza's Mandalay research in the early 2000s, disappeared at Albuquerque in February 2026. McCasland was a central figure in the U.S. military's most sensitive materials and propulsion projects. McCasland's disappearance occurred in the geographic triangle of Southern California, Ohio, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and New Mexico's Los Alamos. His tenure at the Air Force Research Lab placed him at the nexus of several key projects. Materials Directorate, funding and scaling of the Mandalay for reusable space vehicles. Sensors Directorate, development of advanced sensor suites like those worked on by Jacob Pritchard, who died October 2025. UAP disclosure. McCasland was frequently cited in UFO research circles as a gatekeeper of unreleased information. The time of McCasland's disappearance is particularly striking. It occurred just days after the president's order to release government files related to the unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs. His absence removes a primary witness and an administrator of the legacy SAPs that allegedly manage and reverse engineered exotic technologies. Furthermore, his disappearance coincided with that of several Los Alamos National Laboratory employees, including Melissa Cassius and Anthony Chavez, both of whom were involved in sensitive nuclear and materials research. The Chinese Mirror. Systematic scrubbing of the Academy of Engineering. The kinetic brain drain is not limited to the Western Hemisphere. In early 2026, a parallel attrition event occurred within the Chinese military-industrial complex. The Chinese Academy of Engineering, or CAE, the nation's highest honorary and advisory body for engineering, quietly scrubbed the profiles and biographies of its most elite members. Zhao Shikeng, one of China's foremost nuclear weapons experts, and a key figure in theoretical nuclear science under the test ban, is among the first to be removed. He was followed by Wu Mengquan, a radar specialist who developed the KJ-500, an early warning aircraft, and then Wei Yin, a missile designer and former vice president of China Aerospace Science Industry Corp. Or CASIC. Most recently, Yang Wei, the chief designer of the J-20 stealth fighter, also removed from the official online roster. While Beijing has attributed these removals to a widening anti-corruption campaign, the specific nature of the expertise being lost, nuclear weapons, stealth aircraft, radar, missiles, parallels the technical domains targeted in the United States. Some reports suggest that the failure of radars, AD systems, and missiles in Op-Sindoor frustrated Chinese leadership, leading to a purge of the scientists whose hardware failed in operational tests. However, the global scale of disappearances suggests a more profound, potentially transnational coordination aimed at capping the technological advancements of both superpowers simultaneously. So, We have got Wu Mangqing. His information was scrubbed July 2025. Ao Shaigang, scrubbed March 2026. A Yin, 2026. And Yang Wei, March 2026. So the kinetic brain drain suggests two primary, though not mutually exclusive, theories for the systematic removal of scientific talent. First, the breakaway consolidation theory posits that the world is witnessing the final stages of a strategic consolidation of humanity's most advanced technical assets by a non-state or shadow state entity. Under this framework, individuals like Riza Materials, Lorero Fusion, and McCaslin SAPs are not being killed or lost, but rather recruited or consolidated into an unacknowledged infrastructure that operates outside the visibility of mainstream governments. This theory explains why devices like cell phones and wearables are often found at the scenes of the disappearances. The individuals are entering a zero-footprint environment where digital tracking is impossible. The goal of breakaway consolidation would be to achieve a decisive technological leap in MHD, propulsion, and quantum-controlled energy, effectively creating a civilization that is no longer dependent on the planetary resources base or traditional geopolitical structure. The removal of these scientists from public institutions ensures that no other nation can replicate these breakthroughs. The tech cap theory. This offers a more cynical view. Systematic suppression of any technology that threatens the current global socio-economic order. Nuclear fusion would collapse the oil and gas markets. Exotic propulsion, Eskridge Riza, would render the multi-trillion-dollar shipping and defense infrastructure obsolete. Under tech cap, the kinetic brain drain is a regulatory mechanism when a scientist or engineer gets too close to a viable, scalable civilization and/or technology. They are removed from the board. This theory is supported by the warnings left by Amy Eskridge and the strange suicides reported in the UFO research community, such as those involving David Wilcox, biographer, Win Free, who was allegedly working on anti-gravity tech before his death in April 2026. The tech cap ensures that disequilibrium between future challenges and institutional responses is avoided by simply preventing the future from arriving. They want you to think it's a coincidence. They want you to look at the news and see hiking accidents and jealous classmates, that corruption purges, but we're not playing a game of chance anymore. We're looking at the systematic deletion of the human race's future. Welcome to the Red Line Protocol. Look at the data. Between June 2022 and April 2026, the people who were going to give us the stars were wiped off the board. We start in Huntsville. Amy Eskridge, brilliant, gen-level IQ. She co-founds the Institute for Exotic Science. She starts asking the wrong questions about nanoparticle propulsion. She tells her friends, if I die, it wasn't an accident. And then she's gone. And what happens to her research? Does it get published? No. It gets buried while her friends name a satellite after her as a consolation prize. Then we go to Los Angeles. We got Monica Jinko Riza. She's the director of materials at JPL. She co-invents Mandalloy. This isn't just metal, folks. This is the super alloy that makes our rockets better than the Russians. She waves to a friend on a trail, and 30 feet, she's erased from existence. No body, no DNA, nothing. And she worked for Major General Neil McCaslin at the Air Force Research Lab. The same McCaslin who disappears in Albuquerque right as the president is about to dump the UFO files, and one day before the invasion in Iran. Are you seeing it yet? The golden thread. Magnetohydrodynamics, fusion, superalloys, quantum computing. It's the same stack. Nuno Lerero at MIT was the one who was going to tie it all together with quantum algorithms for fusion. He's the one who was going to give us clean energy for the next 10,000 years. And he gets shot in his foyer at the same time China is scrubbing their J-20 designers and nuclear geniuses. It's tech crap. Tech cap. They are capping our civilization. They don't want us to have the Doge 1 moon payload or the VSWIR sensors or the fusion reactors, because if we have that, we don't need the oil. We don't need the borders. We don't need them. Or this is the scary part. Maybe they aren't killing them. Maybe they're moving them. Maybe the breakaway consolidation is they're taking the biological source code of our species and moving it into the SAPs where you will never see it again. Julia Hicks said her dad's death was just medical. The families are scared. The institutions are silent. But the obituaries don't lie. Frank Maywald, Michael Hicks, Andrew Moffat, Jacob Pritchard, all of them tied to the same sensor suites, the same materials, the same secrets. Stay awake. The kinetic brain drain is the red line, and we just crossed it. The kinetic brain drain represents a fundamental threat to the continuity of public sector scientific advancement. The mapping of connections between the Air Force Research Lab funding, MIT theoretical research, and Huntsville exotic science community reveals a vulnerable ecosystem where the loss of a single individual, such as Monica Rezo or Nuno Lerero, can stall entire technological trajectories. The parallel purges in China further suggest that the brain drain may be a global phenomenon, possibly driven by the realization that certain technologies are reaching a singularity point that threatens existing power structures. Whether these individuals are being eliminated to preserve the status quo, the tech cap, or consolidated to form a shadow technological elite breakaway, the result for the public scientific community is the same: a profound loss of talent required to solve the most pressing challenges of the 21st century. Analysts must now treat their personal safety and digital security of high-level researchers in MHD and quantum computing as a primary national security objective to prevent the total hollowing out of the civilian scientific base. All right, now you know. Knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe! So I will go ahead and leave you with that. This is Average American Joe. Stay rooted.